Busted Open, Doug Mortman, Dave LaGreca, Bad News Barrett with us. Appreciate you joining us, and I don't think, well, first off, you don't have the Intercontinental Championship, so nobody can steal it from you. I guess that's a good thing.
It's been commandeered by Kane, so he can hang it above the ring on Sunday, yeah. So once again, I'm the champ, not in possession of my title. It's kind of been a common theme over the last 6 weeks.
But you know what? Maybe that's a good thing, because maybe come Sunday you'll have possession and you'll keep possession. You won't have to worry about anybody taking it.
That's my big fear, is that I'm going to win on Sunday, take my title down, walk to the back, and then the very next day on Raw it all starts over again. Where does this end? You know?
No, that's a good storyline for 32.
Do I then go and steal Brock Lesnar's or Roman Reigns' championship and the tag? I can go and steal everyone's. I'll steal the women's one too. I mean, it's kind of getting ridiculous. So hopefully I'll put an end to it on Sunday.
You have had such an interesting WWE career right from the get. You know, I go back to Nexus, and I go back to storylines, you know, not just beating up Cena, but with you and Cena in particular, and moving along in your career. And take us to fairly present times. Bad News Barrett. How did this develop? Because you have taken this character where we're like, Bad News Barrett, what is this going to be about? And you've killed it. I mean, you've owned it. It's been really quite a run. You know, when it was presented to you or when you developed it, however it worked. Take us there.
Yeah, it actually came out of a joke from Cody Rhodes. Cody, I once walked into the locker room and Cody was telling everybody that he used to watch tapes of old wrestlers when he was a kid, and there was a black and white tape of me, presumably wrestling in the 50s or the 40s or something, and I was coming out as a guy called Bad News Barrett, and I come down, give bad news, and just leave, and everyone started laughing. I don't know where Cody was going with this one, but kind of everyone forgot about it. And then a few weeks later, the guys on WWE.com came to me, and they have a show called the JBL and Cole Show, which is kind of a quirky, ridiculous show where it's bizarro world on there. And they said to me they wanted me to play a character on there. So as kind of a joke back on Cody, I said, yeah, sure, make me Bad News Barrett. I just turn up and give out bad news. And it was never supposed to be anything more than that. And anyway, so I started doing this bad news character on there, and it kind of got a very good response from the fans online. And Vince eventually saw it and decided he wanted that to be my character on TV. And at this point, it was kind of a panic mode. And wait a minute, Vince, this wasn't the plan. I don't want to do this on TV. Just let me be the normal guy. But no, at this point, his decision had been made, and I had to try and figure out how that was going to work on TV. So it was a lot of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And fortunately, it started working, and people really got into it.
And you know, Doug's right. You've killed it, because you know, after your feud with Randy Orton, we're all thinking, all right, this is a guy that's going to go to that next level. And then when you came out as Bad News Barrett, I'm like, as a fan, I'm like, oh, come on. But you've made it work, because 2 weeks later, I'm like, I'm afraid if I got some bad, you know. And then everybody started doing it. I mean, how difficult is that? Because like you said, I'm sure there's some resistance there, because I'm sure everybody wants to be at the top of the card. Yeah. But taking a character like this that at first you said sounds ridiculous, but making it that everybody that's watching, it's almost must-watch TV.
Yeah, I think it's a case of really just playing the hand you've been dealt. You know, I would have loved it. I think at the time, the Shield were kind of doing their really cool stuff. I think everyone wants that kind of role. Everyone wants to be in that spot where they're going up, beating up everybody and looking like the badass all the time. But unfortunately, you can't be like that. You've just got to take what you're given and make the best of it. And that's what I tried to do with Bad News Barrett. I remember when the first couple of weeks went by and I was getting a lot of negative response on Twitter, and guys in the locker room were like, I'm kind of sorry you got that. I was like, oh, it's okay, I'll make this work. And I knew, given time, eventually we'll get some momentum behind it and make it work. And by the end, like, I can't walk down the street now without people shouting this everywhere I go, and I hear it, you know, 20, 30 times a day. And when you hear like Vince and Stephanie and Triple H doing it in the corridor, that's when you know something's working well.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So, and you had a couple of spells of injuries, and it was actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it kept you on TV. You weren't, I guess, physically able to go, but we still saw you up on a 80-foot pole. I mean, by the way, that's got to scare the crap out. I would not want to be on that.
That thing's pretty terrifying. I mean, it's not so much the height that I had the problem with. It was the fact these things are so wobbly. They're really unstable, which was crazy being up there. And then on the one hand, I'm trying to remember what I'm actually going to say, and then people are chanting. They're trying to messing up my rhythm, and then the thing's shaking, and I'm worried about falling over the edge. It's pretty terrifying. And sometimes they they just plain stopped working halfway through. We had some mechanical issues at one show where fortunately it wouldn't go up. It was I was glad it wouldn't go up. It wasn't that it wouldn't come down, otherwise I would have been stuck there for the rest of the show. It's easy when you're stuck at the bottom, not so much when you're stuck at the top.
But I did mention the injuries, and what I've seen from you lately is just a cut-up physique. I mean, you've always been a fit guy, but my goodness. Dallas Page is a good pal of ours. You on the yoga? He mentioned you.
I've done a little bit of the yoga in the past. Really, the thing I've changed since I got injured the last time and came back was my diet. I've changed it massively. I've kind of stopped drinking, which as an Englishman is a very tough thing to do.
I'm sorry to hear
that. It's part of our culture. So, I've not been drinking at all. And on top of that, I've really changed my diet up and my timing of it's actually pretty boring. I don't want to bore anyone to death with it, but it's more. I'm eating more of a plant-based diet now than before. I was eating a lot more carbs, so that's really what
lean and mean.
That's it. It seems to be working for me so far.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned the injuries. How difficult is that when you have a story going and it's getting hot and then the injury happens and it's almost like starting over? How difficult is that?
Yeah, it's always annoying, especially with the kind of lifestyles we lead. We're 4 hours sleep a night kind of people, and we're constantly on the move in airports and different towns every night and wrestling in front of millions of people all the time, and to suddenly go from that to zero and sitting on the couch for 3 or 4 months is very, very tough. Mentally more than physically. The physical stuff, the rehab and stuff is always difficult, but mentally is the worst thing. It's a real low blow to have to kind of get all that momentum taken away from you and then realize you're starting again at the very bottom.
When you think about a couple of days from now, Sunday night, Wrestlemania, and this match, we've all talked it up, yourself and Daniel and, Ambrose, we talked to him earlier, and just Stardust, all these guys, Luke Harper, my God. The lineup for the match itself is unbelievable. And then you factor in ladders, brutality, that sort of thing. When you look at the match on paper, do you want it to steal the show? Is that the plan for the lot of you, is to just knock it out of the park and make people remember this match?
Yeah, I think essentially you've got 7 hungry guys in this match who kind of don't feel that they've had the spotlight in the past when maybe they should have. So we're both hungry and angry, and we want to go out there and make sure that people leave WrestleMania talking about our match above anything else. Other matches might have more hype. They might have what's perceived to be bigger stars or more on the line. But in terms of our match, we want people leaving talking about our match. And we've got 7 guys who are going to work to make that happen.
And with somebody like Brock Lesnar as champion, let's just say Brock Lesnar wins on Sunday. He remains the champion. He's a part-time player. He's not going to be around much. That kind of puts a bigger spotlight on that Intercontinental title. For you, if you're a remain champion, you would think that you're going to be somebody that's going to have more of a spotlight, more of a presence on TV.
Definitely. I think by virtue of the fact that there's now not only just one main championship rather than the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship, there's also the fact that Brock isn't there very often. He's not at any of the live events, and he's only at certain TV tapings and live Raws. So I think that by virtue of that fact, then the Intercontinental Championship, you're right, has automatically been elevated and the spotlight is increasing on that title. So even more reason why we want to win this match.
So was it exciting for you when you heard the news, when you saw Brock on ESPN like the rest of us did, and then he's re-signed with WWE?
Yeah, it was huge. It was a great amount of media for WWE, a great spotlight for us. We don't often get ESPN coverage and SportsCenter and that kind of stuff, so it was great for professional wrestling, sports entertainment to get that kind of coverage. And, Brock draws eyeballs to WWE. The more we can get to WWE, the better. So I think in general, locker room was very pleased about that announcement.
And it's such a weird era right now. Triple H calls it the reality era. You have Roman Reigns, who's the superhero, big-time face, going into the main event, not really clicking with the crowd and getting a lot of boos. And then you have Brock Lesnar, who's the definite heel, maybe getting a lot of cheers. Do you find it difficult in this era of pro wrestling getting a connection with the crowd? Is that difficult ultimately?
I think it's not. I don't think it's necessarily difficult. I think it's just very different to how it's ever been in the past. In the past, if a guy was presented as the good guy and a guy was presented as the bad guy, that's pretty much where the crowd's going to go with that. I think now people are so educated about what sports entertainment and WWE is really about and how it all works with, the advent of the internet and stuff like that. I think people make their own decisions, and it's up to us as a company to react to that more than telling them, no, this is how you're going to react now. We have to react to their reactions, which is it's kind of backwards in a way. But I think it's exciting, it's interesting, and it gives us a new era that we've never really seen before. And, you know, you saw with Daniel Bryan, he got to a position last year in WrestleMania that he really was never supposed to get to, but it was by virtue of the fact that this fan reaction happened, and we had to tailor ourselves to that. And I think it's great, and it gives people what they want. And
how challenging is it? For example, let's just deal with the story that we're in with the Intercontinental Championship, that, you know, there's some serious cats in this match. However, at the same time, people are stealing the title belt. It's all over the place. R-Truth is kind of goofing around. We love Ron. I mean, he's an incredibly talented performer, but it's comical. So is it incumbent upon you to try to reel it back in a little bit, make it more serious? And how challenging is that for all performers involved?
Yeah, I think to an extent I agree it did become comical, but I also would say that we had to set ourselves out differently to every other match. You know, the Undertaker-Bray Wyatt match was always going to be very serious from the start. The Sting against Triple H one was going to be serious from the start. The Brock Lesnar against Roman Reigns has been serious. There's no room for comedy. We, as a group, had to set our stall out slightly different to everyone else, because if we went serious from the word go, no one's really going to care so much about our match because we're kind of building in the same way as everyone else. So the fact that we had something a little different, and it was this comedy kind of shtick that we were doing, the Benny Hill kind of stuff with the you know, guys running around with a title and chasing each other and stuff like that.
You have the mock belt and the burlap sack. Damn it!
And I
think this felt light.
I think it got very serious at the right time. Just before the final thing before Mania, we had to get serious, and that's when it did get serious.
It's also the match, too. I mean,
the match
that's what reins us back in as the fan. It's like, oh, by the way, it's a ladder match for the championship at WrestleMania. 7 awesome guys. I'm in. It's like you could have said nothing, and I'm in.
Exactly. I mean, the match itself almost sells itself, but then we had 6 weeks of TV to fill and to keep the crowd entertained and take them on a bit of a roller coaster to the point where, okay, now I'm really ready to see this match. And hopefully we've done a good job of doing that.
You know, come Sunday, we all know that's the climax of everything that's been happening this year, and then you're right back on Raw on Monday, and it starts like it's like opening day on the day after. What's next for you? Is there anybody that's on this roster now that maybe you haven't had a lot of time with, somebody that you think you have a lot of chemistry with? What's next for you?
You know, that's a difficult question. I would say that since I debuted in WWE over 5 years ago now, I've always been the singles guy, and I've always been the bad guy. So ultimately, I would like to try something different, whether it's playing a more kind of babyface role or whether it's getting involved in a tag team. Certainly, I think I could do something good with Luke Harper as a tag team. We're kind of the grumpy old men of the locker room, and I'd like to go and attack all these young guys coming up from NXT who are kind of trying to make their debut, and they're all wide-eyed and excited. We'll have the 2 grumpy old men go and beat them up. So yeah, I think maybe in the future I'd like to do something a little different to what I've done in the past, just in virtue of the fact that I've been the bad guy singles wrestler since my debut, so something a little tweaked on there would be fun.
Great stuff from BNB right there. Bad News Barrett. Great to catch up with you. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you
Stay
very
healthy.
Much. I'll try my best.
And let's talk soon, man.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you. Hold on to that title, man. You know,
that's easier said than done.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.